My mom is dying, but her last words broke me. Luke, forgive your father. My father? That man, the one who threw us out into the freezing rain when I was just 12. I can still hear his drunken roar. Get out! I never want to see your faces again. Then the door slammed shut. The rain poured down on our backs. Mom held me tight, her body trembling. And me? I just stood there, soaked, shaking with rage. For 24 years, I never called him Dad. Not once. To me, he's nothing but a stain, a shadow that haunted my childhood, even now. And yet, here's Mom, the woman who suffered it all, begging me to forgive him. Don't let hatred weigh you down for the rest of your life. Forgive him, so you can be free. Her voice, cracking, barely more than a whisper. The doctor said, "She only has a few hours left. This might be the last time I'll ever hear her voice." I look at her, my chest tight, my heart in chaos. Part of me wants to scream, "I can't. He destroyed our lives." Yeah, but another part just wants to bury my head in her hands and cry, like a little boy. And then, her words lead me to a secret Mom buried for 24 years. A truth that could change everything I thought I knew. My name is Luke. I'm 36, a software engineer in Austin, Texas. From the outside, my life seems steady. A good job, a tidy apartment, and an old pickup I drive to work every day. But inside, there's a hole I've carried for 24 years, a hollow space I could never fill. It all started to crack on that rainy night, the night my father threw us out of the house. Since then, his image burned into my mind as only two things: fear and hatred. I remember every detail. My father, Richard, he was a strong man, tall, eyes as sharp and cold as steel. When he was sober, he was the kind of dad every kid dreamed of. He took me fishing on weekends, taught me how to kick a soccer ball in the empty lot near our house. I used to brag to my friends, "My dad's so strong. He can lift me onto his shoulders like I weigh nothing." But when the alcohol took over, he became someone else. Angry, violent, terrifying. I used to hold my breath, hiding under the table, every time he screamed at Mom. The shouting, the sound of shattering glass, her muffled sobs. It felt like a nightmare on repeat. I learned to press a pillow over my ears, praying I'd fall asleep. That night, everything hit the breaking point. I stood in the corner, my tiny hands clutching a torn teddy bear, my legs trembling so hard they could barely hold me. My mom, Margaret, stood in front of me, her eyes wet with tears, but her voice steady as she faced him. "Richard, don't do this. We'll go. You don't have to do this," he roared back, slamming a bottle onto the table. The glass shattered like a gunshot in our small kitchen. His face flushed red with whiskey. He stormed over and shoved Mom hard to the floor. Then he pointed at the door, his voice like thunder in my ears. "Get out! I don't need either of you. Get the hell out of my house." I wanted to fight back. I wanted to scream, "Don't do this to us." But I was just a skinny 12-year-old boy, eyes blurred with tears, throat tight, legs shaking like they were frozen solid. Mom pulled me close, held me tight, and guided me to my feet. She didn't say a word as she opened the door. The wind slapped our faces. The cold rain drenched our clothes in seconds, and we stepped out, into the dark. That night, we had nowhere to go. Mom led me to a bus station. We huddled together on a freezing wooden bench, watching the rain pour down in sheets, like the sky itself was raging at us. I leaned against her, listening to her heavy, tired breaths. Her bony fingers stroked my wet hair, her eyes staring into the void. Then she slipped off her thin jacket, the only one she had, and wrapped it around my shoulders. I shivered from the cold, but I could feel her soaked clothes pressed against my back, her body shaking uncontrollably, her lips turning blue. "You'll be okay, Mom, right?" I asked, my voice cracking. She looked down at me, forcing a faint smile. "I promise, sweetheart. I'll take care of us." I didn't know if she was promising me or whispering it to herself, just to keep from falling apart. And years later, I would find out that rainy night wasn't the last time my father saw us. After that rainy night, Mom and I began a survival journey no one would ever wish for. We rented a tiny room on the south side of the city. It was so damp that in winter, steam rose from the walls. By day, Mom worked as a nurse at a small private clinic. At night, she took on sewing jobs, patching up torn clothes, just to have enough for rent, and instant noodles for the two of us. I still remember those dinners under the dim yellow light of that cramped little room. She always placed the only piece of egg into my bowl, smiling. "I already ate at work, sweetheart. You eat." But I knew she was lying. I could hear her stomach growling as she lay with her back turned to me at night. "Mom, I hate him. I hate the man who made you suffer like this," I once whispered, my voice shaking in the darkness. She just shook her head gently. "Don't hate anyone, Luke. Hatred only makes you more tired." But how could I not hate? When I turned 18, something happened that changed everything. That day, I came home early from school. As I reached the alley where we lived, I saw a man standing across the street, his eyes fixed on the tiny window of our room. Even after nearly 7 years, I knew instantly. It was him, my father. His hair had streaks of gray. His shoulders looked smaller, frailer. His eyes, sunken and hollow. When our eyes met, my chest tightened. I thought he would walk over. But then, Mom appeared behind me. Her face froze the moment she saw him. She screamed, "Richard, why are you here? Go away. We don't need you anymore." He opened his mouth as if to say something, but Mom raised her hand, her eyes blazing. "Don't ruin Luke's life again. You've done enough already." He stood there in silence for a few seconds, then turned his back and walked away. His lonely figure disappeared into the damp alley. I stood frozen, my emotions a tangled mess. Part of me felt relief that he left, but another part, hollow. So hollow it hurt. In the years that followed, I buried myself in my studies. I graduated, got a good job, bought a small apartment, and brought Mom to live with me. Watching her sit quietly on the sofa, her tiny frame, her frail hands clasped tightly in her lap, I whispered to myself, "I did it. Now Mom can finally rest." But deep in my heart, his name, Richard, still felt like a wound, a cut that never stopped bleeding. I never saw him again, never called, never sent a single word. I thought he was gone forever, erased from my life, until today. Mom lies in her hospital bed, her frail hand clutching mine, her voice so weak it's barely a whisper. "Luke, forgive your father, before it's too late." I froze. It felt like a boulder had been placed on my chest. "Why, Mom? Why are you asking me to forgive that man? Does he even deserve it?" But then, she looked at me. Her cloudy eyes suddenly lit up, a strange glimmer breaking through, and she whispered, so faint, but I heard every word, "Luke, there are things you've never known. For 24 years, I've hidden the truth about your father." I sat slumped in a cold plastic chair outside the ICU. My hands were locked so tight, my knuckles turned white, fingernails digging deep into my palms. The hospital was eerily quiet, only the ticking of a clock, and the pale fluorescent lights overhead, making the whole place feel like a bad dream. Mom's words kept echoing in my head, like a curse I couldn't shake. "Luke, there are things you've never known. For 24 years, I've hidden the truth about your father." The truth? What truth could ever erase what I saw with my own eyes? I closed my eyes, but the memories came flooding back, like a tidal wave. Mom, on her knees on the floor, holding me tight in desperation. Dad, roaring, his eyes bloodshot with whiskey, his fist clenched like he wanted to smash the world apart. The sound of the door slamming in our faces. The rain that night, pounding like it was tearing through my chest. And now, Mom was begging me to forgive that man. The ICU door creaked open. The sound of the hinge snapped me out of the memory. A doctor stepped out, his face lined with exhaustion from a long shift. His voice was low and rough, each word tightening the knot in my chest. "Mr. Caldwell, your mother needs more rest. We've given her medication, but she's very weak. Please, try not to upset her." I nodded, my throat dry and raw, and stepped inside. Mom lay there, so small, so fragile, I felt like even touching her might make her vanish. Her thin, wrinkled hands rested on the white blanket, skin so delicate it looked like paper. The steady beep of the heart monitor filled the room, but each beep felt like a knife cutting into me. "Luke." Her voice was barely a thread, so faint I had to lean in to hear. I grabbed her cold, frail hand. "I'm here. I'm right here. Don't say anything, Mom. Save your strength." "No, I have to say this. You need to know about your father." I took a deep breath. My lips pressed tight, the anger boiling up in my chest. "I don't want to hear it. I don't care about him. That man, he's been dead to me for years." A single tear rolled down Mom's hollow cheek. "Luke, my son, Richard wasn't the man you think he was." I froze. "Not the man I think he was? What about all those nights you held me, trembling in that damp little room? What about the times he threw things through the window, the sound of glass shattering, your muffled sobs in the dark?" My heart pounded, a storm of rage and confusion tearing me apart. A sound came from the hallway. I turned, and my chest clenched so tight I could barely breathe. My father was standing there. His hair was silver now, his face hollow and sunken, but his eyes still carried that familiar flicker. He wore a tattered old coat. In his trembling hands, a bouquet of white roses, their petals crushed like they'd been gripped too hard, for too long. "Luke." His voice was rough, breaking, like a man about to shatter. My entire body went rigid. Anger flared up inside me, like fire consuming my lungs. "What the hell are you doing here?" I growled, my voice low and sharp. "I told you, I never want to see you again." "Luke, please. Let me explain." "Explain? After 24 years of vanishing like you never existed? After everything you did to us?" I took a step forward, my breath ragged, my fists clenched so tight my nails dug into my skin. I didn't know if I was about to hit him or collapse into tears. Slowly, he held out a weathered envelope, his hands shaking. "Son, read this before you judge me. It's a letter from your mother, one she never found the courage to give you." I froze. A letter? From Mom? For 24 years? What else had she been hiding from me? My heart pounded so hard it felt like it might burst out of my chest. And for the first time in my life, I saw something in my father's eyes I'd never seen before. Regret? Or was it something deeper? A secret? I stared at the old envelope in my father's hands. The edges were yellowed with age. The writing faded, but I could still make out the familiar slant of her handwriting. "To Luke, my son." I didn't know what to do. Part of me wanted to rip it from his hands and tear it to pieces, right there in front of him. But another part trembled, as if that envelope held the answers to every question that had haunted me for 24 years. "Read it, Luke," he said softly, his voice breaking, his hollow eyes glimmering with a pain I'd never seen before. I took a deep breath. My fingers shook as I reached for the envelope. Pulling out the letter felt like pulling out my own heart. Each heartbeat pounded so loudly I could hear it echoing in my ears. "My dearest Luke, if you're reading this, it means I never found the courage to tell you the truth myself. Your father, he was never a perfect man. Yes, he had a temper. Yes, he made me cry countless nights. But there are things you don't know. That night, we left in the rain. He searched for us everywhere. He gave up drinking. He even left his job to make things right. But when he finally found us, I was the one who sent him away. I was afraid, Luke. Afraid that seeing him would reopen the wounds in your heart. Afraid you would never forgive him, or trust me again. I have kept a secret for 24 years. Your father gave up everything to protect you. From a truth so heavy, I still can't bring myself to say it. If you're reading this, please meet him. Just once. Hear him out. I love you more than anything in this world. Mom. I froze. My eyes darted over the words, searching for a sign. Something to prove this was all some cruel joke. But no. That handwriting. It was hers. Luke. His voice cracked as he spoke. I've waited 24 years. Just to stand in front of you like this. Every month, I came to the boarding house, just to catch a glimpse of you from afar. But your mother, she never let me near. I understand. I don't deserve your forgiveness. But, he clenched his shaking hands, his voice trembling. There are things you don't know, things your mother wanted to keep hidden. If it weren't for her silence, maybe you wouldn't hate me this much. All I'm asking is for a chance to tell you, just once. It felt like my chest was being crushed. For 24 years, I'd built a wall of hatred around my heart, a fortress to protect me from pain. But now, that wall was cracking. Part of me wanted to scream, "You're lying. You're playing the victim to make me pity you." But deep inside, a quiet voice whispered, "What if it's true? What if Mom really did hide something from you?" His trembling hand reached out to me. "You don't have to forgive me, son. But please, let me stay by your side. At least, right now." I looked at that hand, then into his tear-filled eyes. Part of me wanted to slap it away, to shout, "You don't deserve this." But another part just wanted to collapse into those arms, to forget all the years of anger and pain. Suddenly, the steady beeping of the heart monitor erupted into a shrill alarm. Beep, beep, beep. Dad and I spun toward the ICU room. "Mom!" I screamed, lunging forward. Doctors and nurses rushed past me. "Cardiac arrest! Prepare to shock!" a nurse yelled. Dad stood frozen at the door, his legs trembling, his lips moving silently, as if praying. I grabbed Mom's icy hand, tears blurring my vision. And in that moment, one question tore through my mind like a blade. If she doesn't wake up, will I ever know the truth she's kept buried for 24 years? The heart monitor blared louder and louder. Beep! 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 Each sound stabbed deep into my chest like a knife. "Mom!" I screamed, bursting into the room. Doctors and nurses rushed in, pushing me aside. "Cardiac arrest! Prepare the defibrillator!" a nurse shouted, her hands trembling as she grabbed the paddles. Dad stood frozen at the doorway, his face pale as ash, his eyes wide open in shock. The hands of the man I had hated my entire life were now clenched so tightly his knuckles had gone white. He looked small. So small I could hardly believe this was the same man I'd spent decades cursing in my heart. I clutched Mom's hand. Her skin was ice cold, like holding a block of frozen stone. "Don't leave me, Mom. Please." My voice cracked. Hot tears streamed down, dripping onto her fragile fingers. I wanted to turn and scream at my father, to tell him this was all his fault, that if not for him, Mom wouldn't have suffered like this. But when our eyes met, I froze. In those hollow eyes, I saw something I'd never seen before. Raw fear, and a desperation so naked, it stopped me in my tracks. Shock 1. 200 joules. Clear. Thud. Mom's body jolted violently as the current surged through her. Then nothing. The flat line on the monitor stretched on endlessly. "Keep compressions. Preparing for shock 2. A sharp voice rang out, cutting through the lump in my throat. I'm not ready to lose her. There's so much I haven't said. Memories of Mom came flooding in. Her gentle smile as she trimmed my hair, her arms wrapped around me on that rainy night, her hand on my shoulder at graduation, the tears she shed when I went 2 months without calling home. Shock 2, 300 joules. Clear. Thud. The monitor let out a long, shrill tone. The world felt frozen. I gripped Mom's hand tighter, my body trembling. Please, Mom, don't leave me. We've got a pulse, heart rhythm restored, a doctor shouted. I collapsed forward, my tears soaking the sheets. Her fingers twitched slightly in my hand, still weak, but warm. I stood up slowly and turned toward the door. Dad was still there, his shoulders quivering as though holding back sobs. When our eyes met again, the fire inside me had burned out. All that remained was an empty, hollow exhaustion. Luke. His voice was hoarse, breaking apart with each word. You have every right to hate me. But please, let me tell you the truth. Just once. Before it's too late. I said nothing. Inside me, a war raged. Do I listen? Or shut him out forever? Do I believe? Or hold on to my hatred? We sat across from each other on a bench in the hospital hallway. The faint hum of the air conditioner filled the silence. Pale yellow light cast shadows across his weathered face. I was a terrible man, Luke. I won't deny that, he began, his voice rough, his eyes fixed on his calloused hands. That night, you heard me shout, "Get the hell out of my house," didn't you? My heart thudded in my chest. Don't tell me you're trying to deny it. I heard it with my own ears. Yes, you heard it. But... He inhaled sharply, and his voice cracked. That wasn't me. What? I muttered, my mind spinning. That night, I was drugged. It was all staged. The one who set it up was your mother's brother. What? I gasped, my head reeling. Why would he do that? Dad lowered his head, his voice dropping to a whisper. Because he was terrified. Terrified a secret would come to light. And the truth your mother kept hidden for 24 years is more cruel than anything you've ever believed about me. I looked at my father, struggling to breathe. Mom's brother? What do you mean? Why would he do that? Dad took a deep breath. His gnarled hands clenched so tight, his knuckles turned white. The yellow light above us cast harsh shadows across his face. Every wrinkle seemed to tremble, like they were about to swallow him whole. Luke, back then, when your mother was pregnant with you, her family fought hard against our marriage. Thomas, the man you call uncle, looked me straight in the eye and said, "A drunk like you doesn't deserve to marry into this family." I clenched my jaw. And he was right. You did drink. You made Mom cry. Yes, I won't deny my past. But you don't know. He didn't stop at words, Luke. Thomas set out to destroy me, to make sure your mother hated me forever. For 24 years, I've hated this man. But if what he's saying is true, then who should I hate? Him? Thomas? Or Mom? The one who kept him away all these years? That night, I was drugged, whiskey and pills. I barely remember what I said, or what I did. When I woke up, you and your mother were gone. I quit drinking. I searched everywhere to find you both. But when I finally made it to that tiny apartment, your mother stood in the doorway. The look in her eyes was like a blade cutting straight through me. Luke, there's something you've never been told. I once got down on my knees in front of her, begging for a chance to explain. But she just said one thing. The truth will destroy my son. I won't let him hear a single word of it. My heart pounded. Part of me wanted to believe he was spinning a story to wash away his guilt. But another part feared he was telling the truth. Did Mom know what Thomas did? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Dad nodded, his tear-filled eyes glistening in the dim light. Yes. But she didn't want you caught in the same cycle of hatred. She chose silence, because she thought it would protect you. For 24 years, I believed Mom was the only one in this world who was always right. But if she hid something too, then what? If I've lived 24 years inside a story that was never complete, what does that make me? Dad gripped my shoulders, his voice cracking. Luke, you don't have to forgive me now. But don't let your mother carry this fear to her grave. Don't let her believe this family is broken. Forever. Suddenly, my phone rang. The sound made me jump. The screen flashed the hospital's number. My hands trembled as I answered. A doctor's voice came through, urgent. Mr. Caldwell, your mother just woke up, but she's very weak, and she has something to tell you before it's too late. I lowered the phone. My legs felt like stone. Dad stared at me, his lips trembling, but he said nothing. In that moment, I realized Whatever Mom is about to say, it could erase everything I've believed for 24 years, or bury me beneath a truth far crueler than anything I've imagined. I ran down the cold hospital hallway, the sound of my shoes echoing off the tiles. My heart pounded in my chest. Sweat drenched my palms. What is Mom about to say? Will this truth save me, or destroy me forever? The door creaked open. The sharp smell of antiseptic hit me, stealing my breath. She lay there, hollow cheeks, lips pale and dry. But in her clouded eyes, there was still a faint, unbroken glimmer of strength. Luke. Her voice was so weak, it quivered like a thread about to snap. I rushed to her side, grasping her icy hand. I'm here. I'm right here. Don't speak, Mom. Save your strength. She shook her head faintly. No, if I don't say this now, I may never get another chance. I wasn't sure I was ready to hear it, but if I didn't, this question would haunt me for the rest of my life. Mom, I know. Dad told me about that night. About Thomas. Her eyes widened, then closed tight. A single tear traced down her sunken cheek. So, your father finally told you. Her voice cracked, each word cutting the air like a blade. But that's not the whole truth. The whole truth? What could be worse than what I just learned? Luke. There's a secret, one Thomas and I kept from you for 24 years. A secret that if you knew, you might hate both your father and me. I squeezed her hand, my tears blurring her face. Whatever it is, I need to know. She turned her face toward the window. The faint evening sun spilled across her face, casting a fragile glow, like a soul about to slip away. That night, your father wasn't the only one who failed. Her voice was weak, but every word rang out like a funeral bell. It was me. I begged Thomas to do whatever it took to cut your father out of your life. Thomas, he didn't hate your father. Everything he did because I asked him to. Because I was afraid you would grow up to be the kind of man your father once was. I wanted to scream, to smash everything in sight. The woman I had loved and trusted more than anyone was the very one who had locked the door on my childhood. For 24 years I hated my father, believing he abandoned us. But the truth, it was Mom. She was the one who pushed him out of my life. I shook my head, my voice breaking, quivering. Mom, why? Why didn't you trust me to choose my own path? She gripped my hand tightly, her tear-filled eyes locking onto mine. Because I was afraid, Luke. Afraid of losing you. I saw how your father fell apart, and I couldn't let you follow the same road, so I kept you close, at any cost. I sat there, holding her cold, fading hand, as one searing question echoed in my mind. For 24 years, have I been living in love, or in a gilded cage? My mother built around me. I let go of Mom's hand, a chill spreading through my entire body. My legs trembled, as if the hospital floor was swaying beneath me. Mom, I whispered, my voice cracking. For 24 years, I believed Dad abandoned us. But all along, it was you who pushed him out of my life. Luke, listen to me. She reached out, but her frail hand fell limply, quivering in the air. I did it, because I love you. I was afraid you'd get hurt. Love me? What kind of love locks someone in a cage for 24 years? Or was it just fear, disguised as sacrifice? I clenched my fists so tight, my nails cut into my palms, drawing blood. Part of me wanted to scream, to smash everything around me, but another part just wanted to collapse, like a child too tired to hold on to hate. I hated Dad, while he stood outside, for 24 years, just to catch a glimpse of me from afar. I growled, each word tearing at my throat. Mom broke down sobbing, her frail shoulders shaking violently. I'm sorry. I was wrong. But you don't understand. I couldn't let you grow up in the darkness that consumed your father. Mom, what else are you hiding from me? I asked, my voice hoarse. She froze, Her red, swollen eyes flicked toward Dad, still standing in the corner, his face frozen like stone. "There's something. Even your father doesn't know." A shiver ran down my spine. I was terrified. Terrified that hearing this would shatter my heart completely, and the woman I loved most would never be my mother again. "Mom, tell me," I hissed through gritted teeth. She drew a shaky breath, her pale lips quivering. "That night, your father came to find me, but I called the police. I told them he was trying to hurt me and you. I made them drive him away. For good." The person I believed was the victim was the one holding the key to lock this family in a never-ending cycle. I wanted to hate her, but when I looked into her eyes, why did my heart ache like this? Dad stepped forward. His trembling hand rested on my shoulder, his voice low and rough. "Luke, if you can't forgive me, then hate me. But don't hate your mother. If you carry this hatred, you'll destroy yourself." I shut my eyes, hot tears streaming down my face. Two voices battled in my head. Forgive, to set yourself free. No. If you forgive, you're betraying all the pain you've endured. I opened my eyes. I saw Mom sobbing, her body frail and shaking. Then I looked at Dad, his eyes bloodshot and heavy with regret. And in that moment, I knew. Whether I choose love or hate, my heart will never be whole again. The room was silent. So silent I could hear the heart monitor ticking slowly, steadily. I stood between my father and my mother, my chest tight, as if someone was squeezing my heart in their fist. Every beat felt heavy enough to split me in two. "Luke." Mom's voice was faint, trembling like a candle about to go out. Her tearful eyes stared at me like a child terrified of being left behind. "Forgive me. Please. All I ever wanted was to keep you safe. To protect you." "Safe? You locked me in a gilded cage and called it love. But if you closed your eyes for the last time right now, could I live with never forgiving you?" Dad gripped my hand tightly. His voice was low, rough, breaking apart. "Luke, I was a terrible man. And your mother, she made her mistakes too. But there's one thing you need to know. Right or wrong, we never stopped loving you." I stepped back. My hand slipped from Dad's, and from Mom's trembling fingers. Hot tears blurred my vision, rolling down my cheeks. Why did you pull me into the middle of all this? For 24 years, I hated one of you and loved the other. But now I see, you both lied to me. Mom, my voice cracked like a lost child's. I thought you were the one person I could lean on. But now, you've shattered all that trust. Mom broke into sobs. Each ragged cry echoed through the cold, sterile hospital room. Luke, I'm sorry, but if you carry this hatred, you'll be just like I was, controlled by fear, and you'll lose everything. I hate, but I'm tired of hating. If I don't let go, am I already walking the same road they did, the road that leads only to ruin? I looked at my father, then at my mother. One, once the monster in my memories. The other, once my hero. Now, they both seemed so small, so human, full of flaws, full of exhaustion. My hands trembled, nails dug into my palms until they drew blood. But inside, there was only a cold, empty void. I don't know if I can forgive you, but I know this. If I stay here, I'll be trapped forever, caught between love and hate. I drew a deep breath, my voice hoarse. I need time, and when I'm ready, we'll talk again. One last time. No more lies, no more fear. But in my heart, a quiet voice whispered, if I walk away now, will this be the last time I ever hear her call my name? I stepped out of the hospital room, feeling like I had just walked out of a violent storm. But inside, my heart was still spinning, hollow and tight, like I couldn't catch my breath. The hospital hallway stretched on endlessly. Cold fluorescent lights cast a pale glow on the white tiles, reflecting my face. A face that looked tired, lost. A face I could barely recognize as my own. Forgive, or don't forgive. If I forgive, am I betraying the pain I've carried for 24 years? But if I don't, am I trapping myself in the same cage of hatred that destroyed them? I leaned against the cold wall, closing my eyes. In the darkness, memories came flooding back. Mom sobbing, Dad standing silently in the corner, and their frail, trembling hands reaching for each other. Weak, fragile, but still holding on. I remembered a rainy night when I was 10. Mom held me close, her voice whispering in my ear, "Luke, all you need to know is that I love you more than anything in this world." Back then, those words were my whole world. But now, they echoed like a belated apology, wrapped in love and fear. Soft footsteps echoed down the hallway. I opened my eyes and saw Dad standing at the far end. He looked at me, his eyes red and heavy with regret. "Luke." His voice was low, rough, trembling. "I know. You can't forgive me right now. But please, don't let hatred turn you into the man I once was." I looked straight at him. For the first time in my life, I didn't see the monster from my childhood memories. I saw a man, small, flawed, but still carrying a clumsy kind of love for his son. "Your mother. She's just a woman who's been afraid for too long," he said, his shoulders sagging under the weight of it all. "But you don't have to be like us. Don't have to be like them." But how could I be different when my heart had already been torn into 100 pieces? I took a deep breath, a cold shiver running down my spine. When I opened my eyes, I knew what I had to do. I walked back into the hospital room. Mom lay there, her pale face still, her lips barely moving like she was calling my name in a dream. I stepped closer, my hands trembling as I took her frail hand in mine. "Mom," my voice was hoarse, breaking. "I can't promise to forget, but I'll try to let go. Not for you, but because I don't want my heart to turn to stone." Her eyes fluttered open, clouded but glimmering faintly. A single tear slipped down her cheek. You," she whispered, her words so faint but heavy like a stone pressing into my chest. I held her hand tight, my eyes drifting to the window where rain still fell quietly outside. And a question echoed in my mind. Maybe love isn't about forgetting the cracks, but learning how to touch them without feeling the pain anymore. A week later, I stood still before a freshly covered grave, the scent of damp earth still clinging to the air. The sky hung heavy and gray. Cold raindrops fell on my hair, sinking into my skin, chilling me to the bone. The stone marker bore her name. Those cold, etched letters cut into my heart. Slowly, deliberately. They reminded me of a love that had been both tender and suffocating. She's gone now. Mom took her secrets, her fears, and her clumsy, imperfect love down into the earth with her. For 24 years, I hated my father and loved my mother. But in the end, I see it clearly. They were both just people, hearts cracked and flawed, trying to love me in their own ways. Broken ways, painful ways, but still, love. Dad stood beside me, his shirt soaked through, white hair drooping over red, swollen eyes. He said nothing, just placed a bouquet of white flowers on Mom's grave. Then stood still, his shoulders trembling faintly. "Luke," he said at last, his voice hoarse, caught in his throat. "I don't expect you to forgive me. Not yet. But if you can, don't carry this hatred with you forever. Because hatred, it burns you from the inside out." I looked at him. The man who had once been the villain of my childhood stories now stood before me, thin, weighed down by mistakes and regret. There was no anger left in his eyes, only a quiet plea for redemption. Maybe growing up isn't about forgiving those who hurt you. Maybe it's about forgiving yourself, for holding on to the pain for so long. I took a deep breath. The smell of rain and fresh soil filled my lungs. A single tear slipped from my eye, falling onto my cold hand, resting on her gravestone. Mom, I thought I'd hate you until my last breath, but when I let go of your hand that day, I realized my heart was too tired to keep hating anymore. Dad placed a hand on my shoulder, giving it a gentle squeeze. It was awkward, hesitant, but in that moment, I felt something loosen inside me. I saw the image of a 10-year-old boy standing by the window, watching the night, waiting for his father to come home. Today, that father stood beside me. No alcohol, no shouting, just silence, heavy with 1,000 unspoken words. Maybe love isn't about forgetting the cracks. Maybe it's about learning to touch them without feeling the pain anymore. And maybe that's the only way a heart can ever be free.